Exposed. The incredible night I escaped my daughter's home and discovered a heartwarming truth. Jack Thompson was done feeling like a burden. In his 65 years, he had seen war, faced his demons and fought for his country. But nothing prepared him for the daily struggle of feeling like he was weighing down his beloved daughter, Emily. He watched her work tirelessly, her worn face hinting at sleepless nights spent caring for her two energetic kids. Every laugh they shared seemed to pull at his heart, reminding him that life was moving on, and he was simply holding her back. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows on the walls of their cozy suburban home, Jack felt the weight of inadequacy pushing him down. He opened the front door quietly, unsure if he was sneaking out or running away. The crisp air hit him like a wave, awakening his senses. He wandered through the familiar streets of his old neighborhood, each step grounding him in a forgotten past filled with laughter, camaraderie, and the pulse of a community that built him. As he strolled, memories flooded in with each familiar crack in the sidewalk. He could hear the joyful screams of children playing, the clinking of glasses from the local diner, and the comforting chatter of neighbors catching up. Entering the diner, his heart soared as he greeted old friends from long ago, each face lighting up at the sight of him, as though he were a long-lost treasure found. They swapped stories of lost jobs and triumphs, the reality of their challenges swirling in memories of better days. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jack felt the warmth of connection wrap around him like an old quilt, a sudden commotion snapped him back to reality. Headlights illuminated the darkening street outside as flames danced viciously in the window of a nearby house. The unmistakable scent of smoke filled his nostrils, pushing him forward with urgency. Memories of military training surged through his mind, reminding him of a time when he acted without hesitation. He felt the instinct to help, to protect, yet thoughts of Emily and the kids tugged at him like a chain wrapped around his heart. His feet rooted to the spot, Jack stood at a crossroads, a moment where family and duty clashed like titans. He could have walked away, convinced that his priority should be staying safe with Emily, but this was the very essence of who he was: a father and a neighbor. As sirens shrieked closer, the internal battle raged within him, with the flames flickering ominously, illuminating his worn face. Jack felt an unexpected surge of courage. The choice lay before him: retreat into the shadows of helplessness or step boldly into the chaos, proving he wasn't just a burden but a pillar of strength for his loved ones and community. The climactic decision hung in the air, begging for answers as Jack took a deep breath and moved toward the fire. Jack hesitated for a split second, his heart thrumming wildly in his chest. He could hear the distant wail of sirens approaching, and with every passing moment, it became clearer the choice was no longer just about him. The fire, fierce and rising, threatened lives. It demanded action. He could feel the heat against his skin, drawing him closer, urging him to rush toward the flames instead of retreating into an easier silence. Stepping into the chaos, Jack felt time warp around him. He fought the urge to falter as the smoke curled around him like thorny vines, constricting his breath. Yet, the memories of his youth, the camaraderie, the battles fought alongside his brothers in arms ignited something deep inside. He was not just an elderly man, he realized. He was part of something greater, a protector, a warrior. The urgency of the situation sharpened his focus, propelling him forward. He sprinted past frightened neighbors gathering across the street, their shocked faces revealing a shared anxiety. Jack spotted a couple straining to pull an unconscious figure from the house. "Get the door. I'll help," he shouted, his voice stronger than he felt. The couple nodded hesitantly, and together, they forced the door open, letting out a surge of acrid black smoke that billowed into the night. He felt fear claw at him, but he pushed it aside. With sweat beading on his brow, he dashed inside. The heat rushed over him, but so did a wave of determination. He could hear muffled cries urging him forward. He forced himself to remember his basic training, the drills that had become second nature: focus on the mission, stay calm, and help others. Jack maneuvered through the thick haze, reaching for the walls to guide himself. Suddenly, a dim light caught his eye, illuminating the form of a woman pinned beneath a fallen beam. Breathing heavily, he rushed toward her, adrenaline thrumming in his veins. He knelt beside her, seeing the terror in her eyes. "I've got you," he said, squeezing her hand. "Hang on." With every ounce of his strength, he pushed against the beam, his muscles straining and screaming. Just as he thought he might fail, the beam shifted. The woman gasped and Jack pulled her free. Together, they stumbled toward the exit, coughing as toxic smoke invaded their lungs. Once outside, fresh air rushed into his lungs, and he dropped to the ground beside her, watching as paramedics rushed over. The feeling of relief washed over him, but it was quickly overshadowed by the sight of Emily standing at the edge of the crowd, her face a mask of horror and disbelief. "Dad!" Emily cried, rushing to him. Panic flooded her voice as she took in his soot-covered face, the remnants of smoke clinging to his clothes. "I'm okay, Em," Jack breathed out, reaching for her hand, grounding them both. In that fleeting moment, he saw the emotion swirling in her eyes, a mix of fear, gratitude, and something deeper, something unspoken. As the sirens whirled around them, a warmth swelled inside him, reminding him that he had stepped outside the perceived boundaries of his life. Maybe he wasn't just a burden after all. Maybe, just maybe, he could still be a hero, not just for the community, but for the family he adored. But as he glanced back at the chaos unfolding behind him, another thought nagged at the edges of his mind. What had he really risked? What would happen when the last embers flickered out? He held onto Emily's hand tighter, knowing that tonight would change everything. And just when Jack thought he had found clarity, the fire chief approached, shaking his head solemnly. "There were people still unaccounted for," he began, his voice steady but heavy. Jack's heart sank. Who else might be trapped? What awaited him next would challenge everything he thought he had overcome. The fire chief's words hung in the air like the smoke still swirling around them. Jack's heart raced again. Not from adrenaline but from a chilling sense of dread. "What do you mean, unaccounted for?" he asked, his voice shaky. The fire chief's eyes lost their steadiness for a moment, revealing the burden he carried. "There are reports of more people inside," the chief replied, his face taut. "We've sent teams in. But if they don't come out soon," his voice trailed off, heavy with the unspoken. Jack felt his pulse quicken. He knew the risks. But how could he stand by now, after feeling the rush of purpose just moments before? "Let me go back in," Jack urged, the words bursting from him with a sense of urgency that surprised even himself. He was old, but that warrior spirit still flickered inside him, growing brighter with every desperate thought of someone else in danger. Emily's hand trembled in his, and he glanced at her, fear etched on her face. "Dad, no!" she cried, pulling him back. "You can't. It's too dangerous." "Emily, I can't just stand here doing nothing," his voice caught, a wave of emotions crashing over him. Memories of battles fought and loss filled him. But this wasn't just about him. This was about those families, those lives still in the throes of chaos. "Please," she whispered, anguish in her eyes. "Just stay with me." Her plea pierced him. Jack could see how terrified she was, his little girl, now grown but still needing him. He squeezed her hand tighter. "I won't leave you behind," he promised, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. But could he really stand still, knowing others might be in peril? Before he could answer, a fire truck roared forward, its lights flashing, drowning the scene in a strobe of red and white. Firefighters leaped from the vehicle, their expressions set and determined. Jack watched them with a mix of pride and desperation as they suited up, ready to face the flames without hesitation. "Stay put," the fire chief said tersely, turning toward his crew. "You know the drill, get in, get out. We don't have time to waste." Jack felt the weight of helplessness settle over him like a thick fog. Each second that ticked by felt heavier than the last. The murmurs of the crowd faded into a dull roar in his ears, overtaken by the cries of those still trapped. Then, as if the universe was playing a cruel trick, a firefighter burst through the front door of the house, carrying a small child in his arms. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Jack felt his heart leap. The child was alive. But as the firefighter handed the child over to a waiting medic, Jack's breath caught in his throat. "Is anyone else in there?" he called. The firefighter paused, catching Jack's eye. "We're searching, but we haven't found everyone." Jack's heart crashed. The enormity of the situation gripped him again. He couldn't just wait. What if someone was trapped? What if they were running out of time? With renewed resolve, Jack pulled Emily closer. I need to help for all of us, he said, meeting her wide stare. There was fear there, but also something else, understanding. Suddenly, the fire chief called again, breaking the moment. Listen up. We're going to start evacuating the area. We need to secure the perimeter. As people began to shuffle away from the house, Jack felt an unmistakable pull. He stepped closer to the house. Outside, Emily's string of protests fell silent behind him. Just before he lost himself in the haze of smoke again, he gazed back at Emily one last time, her expression a mix of pride and fear. This really was his moment. He needed to step into every fire that waited for him, not just in the building but in his life. And as he took a deep breath, readying himself to plunge back into the chaos, a heart-stopping realization washed over him. What if he found not only lost souls but also something he thought had been extinguished long ago? His own courage rediscovered with renewed purpose and a fierce light in his chest. He heard the voice of the fire chief crackle over the radio. Everyone be advised. We may have to initiate a search in the upper floor. Jack's heart sank as he realized the truth. The real challenge lay just ahead, waiting beyond the flames. Would he risk it all, not knowing what awaited him inside? As Jack stepped into the smoke-filled doorway, the heat enveloped him like an unwelcome embrace. The chaotic crackling of flames echoed eerily, a loud reminder of the destruction surrounding him. Instinct kicked in, overriding his fear. He focused on the task ahead. Each step forward felt like a battle, but he could almost hear Emily's voice reminding him to stand firm. Anyone here? He shouted, his voice barely making its way through the thick veil of smoke. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead, but he had to press on. With every inch he pushed through the burning debris, Jack thought about the child they had pulled out. Was there anyone else? His heart raced as hope mingled with dread. Images of families, parents, siblings, lovers flashed in his mind. What if they were still inside, waiting for someone to bring them out? Suddenly, he heard a faint cry coming from upstairs. Jack's pulse quickened. It was a voice twisted by fear, desperation seeping through every syllable. Help! Please! Without thinking, Jack stumbled toward the staircase that had become a charred shadow of its former self. He grabbed the banister, which was hot to the touch, and pulled himself up step by step. Each groan from the structure sent a shiver down his spine, but he couldn't turn back. I'm coming! He shouted, pushing through the heat and the smoke, moving toward the voice. As he reached the top, his lungs burned, but he forced himself to breathe in the acrid air. Where are you? He called out, straining to catch another sound, any sign of life. Over here. The voice was nearer, filled with terror. Jack followed the sound, careening around corners, dodging fallen beams and debris that threatened to collapse under his weight. Finally, he found a small bedroom. The door was partially ajar, smoke billowing outward like a living thing. Gathering his courage, he kicked the door open and stepped inside. There, huddled against a corner, was a woman, cradling her child tightly in her arms. Help us, please, she gasped, her face streaked with soot and fear. Without hesitation, Jack rushed over. I'm here. We're getting out. He could see the woman was shaking, her eyes wide with panic. Jack steadied her with a hand. We need to move. Follow me. He ushered her toward the door, and as they started their escape, the flames crackled louder, reminding them all too acutely of their fragility. Just then, a loud crash echoed behind them as a rafter fell, blocking the safe exit. Jack's heart raced as the woman gasped. We're trapped. No. We can't be. Jack yelled, scanning the room. There had to be another way. His eyes darted to the window, an incomplete option, but one that might save them. We've got to get there. Now. As he broke open the window, cutting his hands on the glass, he turned back to the woman. Help your child first. I'll boost you. The child, no older than 5, trembled against his mother's side. In that heartbeat, Jack's mind drifted to Emily, suddenly feeling the weight of fatherhood, the undeniable connection that anchored him even in this storm of chaos. What if I don't want to leave you? The woman cried, her words torn by fear. You have to. Jack's voice was firm but kind. You have to live for him, for your family. We'll find a way. With a surge of determination, he hoisted the young boy through the window, his small frame slipping into the night air. But as Jack turned back to assist the mother, the flames roared louder. The house trembled around him and he could feel the heat licking at his back. Could they make it out alive? As the woman reached for the ledge, Jack couldn't shake the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. He would do all it took to ensure they escaped, but was he counting the cost of their lives against his own? The crisis had morphed into something far greater. The moments they battled within the fiery walls held a context he never expected. This was a test of courage, not just theirs, but his own, and what would he discover about himself in the heart of those flames? But suddenly, just as he was about to surge forward, something caught his eye. A flicker in the shadows. Another voice. Dimitri. Jack. Get out. The familiar voice yelled, just before the structure creaked ominously, sending a ripple of fear crashing through him. Would this be the moment he faced a choice that could change everything? With sweat pouring down his back and his heart pounding, Jack realized he had to decide quickly. How much further would he go to save those still inside? In an instant, nothing but chaos enveloped Jack as Dimitri's voice rang in his ears. The urgency of the moment snapped him back into focus. He could see the flames dancing closer, their orange tongues eager to claim more ground. This was not just about him. Each second they spent deliberating could mean devastation for the woman and child trapped beside him. Dimitri, I can't leave them, Jack shouted, desperation clawing at him as he looked back at the pair. The mother was trembling, her breath coming in jagged gasps as she hesitated at the window, the glow of flames illuminating her fear. Jack, there's no time. Dimitri was closer now, his silhouette shifting in the smoke-filled haze. The whole place is going down. We need to get out. But Jack took a breath, defiance stealing his resolve. No, I can't just leave them. He took a step back toward the mother and child, his heart racing. Do you think they'd have a choice if it were you in there with Emily? Get them out. Dimitri's voice was filled with urgency, raw and relentless. The thought of Emily was like a surge through Jack's veins, fueling his determination. Listen to me, Jack said, locking eyes with the woman. I promise I will get you both out. You have to trust me. She nodded, her eyes filled with tears, and Jack felt every ounce of fear she held. He turned, not wanting to overthink it. He knew the window was their only option, and time was slipping away fast. Jack lifted the boy into the air, feeling the weight of innocence in his arms. You'll be safe, I promise. He gave the child a reassuring smile, gritting his teeth as he struggled against the intense heat radiating from behind him. With one thrust, he handed the boy to Dimitri, who was anxiously waiting outside. Get him away from here, Jack shouted, knowing that each moment they stayed could be their last. The mother's eyes widened as she desperately tried to scramble toward the window. Jack turned, extending a hand to pull her up and through. Come on. We can do this. His hand shook, adrenaline coursing through him like fire itself as the mother grasped his fingers. Just as he thought they might make it, a crack echoed from above, sending a wave of dread crashing over Jack. Hold on. Dimitri's shout pierced through the roar of the flames, bringing with it a fresh jolt of panic. Jack felt the structure beneath him shift, the balance tipping in favor of impending disaster. I'm going to boost you. You need to jump, Jack shouted, adrenaline coursing as he lifted her. The smoke and heat pressed against him, a relentless reminder of how close they were to calamity. Don't let go, she cried, her voice breaking. Jack watched as Dimitri reached out, desperation mirrored in his expression. Now, he bellowed, and Jack could almost feel time slow as he launched her toward the window. Just as she leapt, the roof buckled, sending sparks raining down like shooting stars. Jack's heart dropped, but he couldn't allow himself to be overwhelmed. He turned to the window only to find the boy still being cradled by Dimitri, their escape a heartbeat away. Go, Dimitri shouted, waving his arms. You have to get out. The room shook, roaring flames inching dangerously close. Jack took a deep breath and climbed onto the ledge, preparing to leap, but something caught his foot. His heart raced, panic clawing at his chest. He pulled against the debris, feeling the walls tremble and shift. Jump! Dimitri yelled again. Grab my hand, Jack shouted, extending his arm as he propelled himself through the opening. A surge of energy pulsed through him. It felt like a rebirth in the chaos. He launched himself, reaching for the safety of the ground below. A moment suspended in time, he flew out into the cool night air, driven by sheer will. They landed hard on the grass outside, the impact knocking the wind out of Jack. He gasped for air, eyes darting back to the house. The flames erupted behind them, lighting the sky like 1,000 fireworks gone wrong. Jack looked around, his heartbeat crashing in his ears as he searched for the woman and child. Are they safe? He gasped, struggling to speak, the adrenaline slowing in his veins. They made it. They're over there. Dmitri pointed, relief washing over his face as both mother and son were huddled together a few feet away, their faces smeared with soot, but alive. Jack felt something shift within him, a beacon of hope illuminated in the chaos. Just when he thought he couldn't face another second, he realized he found real purpose in risking it all. But beneath the shimmering relief, a thought lingered, threatening to disrupt the calm settling over them. What was next? They had escaped the fire, but as he breathed in the fresh night air, he knew their fight had just begun. How could they move forward from this? With so much uncertainty ahead, Jack's heart began to race again. But now it was fueled by something different. Would this fire forge the bonds he desperately needed to face the trials ahead? Jack's heart felt heavy, pulsing with the remnants of adrenaline. The relief of escaping the flames was quickly overshadowed by the uncertainty that lay ahead. Dmitri was on his knees, coughing, the smoke still swirling around him like a bad memory. Are you okay? Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper amidst the crackling of the fire. He reached out, placing a hand on Dmitri's shoulder. Yeah, Dmitri croaked, his eyes scanning the scene. We all are now. Just give me a minute. The smell of burnt wood mixed with the night air, a bitter reminder of what they had just survived. Jack turned his gaze back to the mother and child. They sat together, trembling but intact, their eyes wide, soaking in the reality of their escape. Jack's heart swelled with a mix of pride and fear. Can I talk to them? He murmured to Dmitri. Sure, Dmitri replied, nodding. It was a simple word, but Jack could see the exhaustion etched in Dmitri's features, the vice grip of worry still tightening around them all. With cautious steps, Jack approached the mother, who was now clutching her son tightly, both of them still covered in soot. Hey! He began gently, kneeling down to be on their level. You did amazing. I'm so glad you're safe. The woman's eyes glistened with tears as she took a moment to catch her breath. Thank you, she whispered, her voice shaky but sincere. I thought we weren't going to make it. Jack nodded, feeling an overwhelming wave of empathy roll through him. But you did. You are both here and that means everything. She looked away for a moment, gathering herself. We had no idea the fire would spread so quickly. We thought we'd be okay. Jack swallowed hard, recalling the chaos of the last minutes in that house. I understand. It can happen so fast and unexpectedly. He reached out, laying a hand on her shoulder. You're strong. And you're not alone now. I'm Marissa, she said softly, her eyes reflecting a blend of gratitude and fear. Jack, he replied, feeling a spark of connection. And that's your brave little warrior? He nodded toward the boy, whose face was hidden behind Marissa's arms. Liam, she said, turning him toward Jack. The child peeked out from behind his mother, eyes wide, curiosity shining through his fear. Hey Liam, Jack grinned, feeling his heart melt at the sight of the boy. You're quite the hero tonight, aren't you? Liam's face broke into a shy smile, fragile yet brave. I did what Mom said. That's right, Marissa added, pride swelling in her chest. He helped me when I was scared. Jack felt a pang as he listened to her, the fabric of their bond illustrating something profound. You've both shown incredible courage. But the calm couldn't last long. A piercing siren echoed in the distance, reminding Jack of the urgency surrounding them. Fire trucks would soon flood the scene, and even if they were safe now, the aftermath would be complicated and painful. Where do we go from here? He wondered aloud, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. I don't know, Marissa replied, her voice trembling again. I don't have anywhere to go. Everything's gone. Jack exchanged a glance with Dmitri. There was something in the air, an understanding that the fire had illuminated more than just their surroundings. It highlighted a need to support one another, to face whatever came next together. As the sirens grew louder, Jack's mind raced with possibilities. They had survived the flames, but what if it was just the beginning? In the light of the flickering flames, Jack found himself thinking of Emily, of family, and the need for connection in the face of crisis. Maybe we can help each other, he suggested, trying to digest the enormity of their situation without flinching. You and Liam can stay with us at least until we figure things out. Marissa's eyes widened, a mixture of disbelief and hope. You do that for us? Absolutely, Jack replied, a wave of determination flowing through him. With every passing moment he realized they were bound not just by the past disaster but the potential for a shared future as they all stood together. An unexpected family forged in the crucible of survival. A harsh wind swept through, carrying the embers of the fire with it. Jack knew they would emerge from this changed and stronger. But would they be ready for the struggles those changes would bring? The sirens were almost upon them now, and with each passing second, Jack's mind spun in circles of possibility. What would happen next? What other fires, literal or metaphorical, would they have to face together? Jack felt the ground shift as the fire trucks arrived, their blaring sirens slicing through the night air. They rolled to a stop, their flashing lights illuminating the haze of smoke that still lingered. He could see the reflections flicker off the faces of the onlookers' neighbors who had either rushed out to help or stood frozen in shock at the chaos unfolding before them. Dmitri, still catching his breath, pushed himself off the ground, regaining his composure with determination. I'll talk to them, he said, motioning toward the firefighters as they rushed past. Get them up to speed. Jack nodded, watching as Dmitri joined the responders, his figure swallowed momentarily by the bustle. Marissa was still kneeling with Liam, her fragile smile wavering. What do we do now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace around them. We focus on what comes next. One step at a time, Jack reassured her, feeling a surge of protective instinct. Let us get you two to a safe place away from all this chaos. Do you really mean it? Marissa's brow furrowed, and the uncertainty in her eyes cut deep. Jack realized the enormity of what he had suggested. Opening his home to strangers was one thing. Inviting them into the aftermath of their trauma was entirely another. Yeah, I really do, he said firmly. You and Liam deserve some peace after all this. He gestured toward Dmitri, now animatedly explaining the situation to the firefighters. He gets it too. We both do. We're in this together. Marissa looked down at Liam, who was still clutching her tightly. What if it's too much? What if? Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice. What if I told you I understand loss? I've been through my share of tough times, but I also know the comfort of having someone by your side. Letting someone in. Marissa's tears glistened anew, but this time with something that looked like hope. I just don't want to be a burden. You won't be, Jack replied, sincerity lacing his words. You and Liam are family now. We'll figure this out as we go. No one should have to go through this alone. As she absorbed his words, the weight of the moment settled around them. They didn't know each other well, but life had a strange way of bringing people together when they needed it the most. Liam tugged at his mother's sleeve, his voice small but steady. Can we go with him, Mom? Marissa looked at Jack, then back at Liam, her heart visibly shifting. Okay, she whispered, her resolve strengthening. Yes, we can go. Great. Let us get somewhere safe. Jack felt a rush of relief as he heard Dmitri approaching, having finished with the firefighters. Everything's under control for now. They'll handle the fire while we gather what we need, he said. Where's Marissa? Right here, she said, standing a little straighter now. Liam nestled against her. We're ready to go. Okay then, let us make a move before the crowd gets too big, Dmitri suggested, slowly leading the way as they began to walk, feeling the familiar warmth of camaraderie build again. As they navigated through the throng of people and emergency responders, Jack grasped Marissa's hand, squeezing it gently. You're incredible, he whispered to her. The courage it takes to accept help is just as powerful as running toward danger. Marissa offered a slight smile. It felt fragile but real. Thank you for this. I don't know how to express it, but thank you. Just as they turned the corner, the world suddenly felt heavier again. The extent of their loss lay ahead, waiting to be faced. Jack's breath caught in his throat, and that moment, they spotted the charred remains of Marissa's home, a smoldering silhouette against the night sky. We lost everything," Marissa breathed, her voice shaking, but before Jack could respond, a sudden rumble echoed from the sky above, and the wind shifted direction. A storm was approaching, a storm laden with uncertainty and the unknown. Jack leaned closer to Marissa and Liam as they faced the ruins together. "We'll start over. You'll see." Yet deep down he felt the creeping shadow of doubt. How could he promise her a future when the present felt so bleak? As the first drops of rain began to fall gently, mixing with the smoke in the air, Jack knew this was just the beginning. Would they be able to rebuild, or would the storm tear them apart even more? The rain began to pour heavily, each drop crashing down like a drumroll, intensifying the chaos surrounding them. Jack felt the dreariness seep into his bones, but he refused to let despair take hold. Marissa was still staring at her home, the glow of what once was now reduced to glowing embers. "Come on," he urged gently, trying to steer her away from the devastation. He felt a quiet desperation to get them both somewhere safe, somewhere they could breathe without the weight of loss pressing down on them. Marissa blinked away the rain, her tears mingling with the water cascading down her cheeks. Her vulnerability struck Jack hard. "What if we can't find somewhere to stay?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the rushing storm. "We will," Jack vowed, tightening his grip on her hand. "We're going to figure this out. One step at a time. It's going to be okay." But as he spoke, anxiety twisted in his stomach. He had no idea what tomorrow would look like, but he needed her to trust him. Liam, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, looked up at them. "It's like a giant waterfall," he exclaimed, pointing at the sky, laughter spilling into the air, momentarily lifting the gloom. His innocent joy felt like a balm, reminding everyone of simpler times. Marissa chuckled lightly, which brought Jack a flicker of relief. "Yeah, just like a waterfall," Jack played along, trying to keep the mood light, despite the heavy reality that loomed. "And we are going to get to the rainbow on the other side." As they started walking, the sound of rain became a symphony, mixing with the whispers of a community coming together. Neighbors were picking up debris, gathering belongings, offering hugs and cups of coffee to those in distress. The spirit of resilience thrived here, surging through the crowd like electricity. "See," Dimitri approached, drenched but smiling. He was clutching a couple of towels. "This community is going to rally around you, Marissa. You're not alone." Marissa nodded, but the shadows in her eyes remained. "It all just feels so hopeless." "Hope comes in small doses sometimes," Dimitri replied, lowering his voice as he ushered them away. "But there is always hope." They walked a little further, the street lighting playing a soft glow on the now soaked ground. Jack felt a surge of warmth. They were a ragtag band of survivors clinging to each other amidst devastation, but maybe that was exactly what they needed right now. Jack spotted an old community center just a block away. Its warm lights shone through the downpour, promising shelter from the storm. "How about there?" he suggested. "I think they might have resources." Marissa looked uncertain, but the gleam of safety seemed to spark some resolve in her heart. "Okay," she whispered. With a deep breath, she squeezed Jack's hand tighter as they stepped toward the sanctuary of the community center. Jack felt a strange sense of clarity. Maybe rebuilding meant more than just the physical act of fixing what was lost. Maybe it meant finding strength and vulnerability in each other. But just before they reached the entrance, a booming clap of thunder echoed throughout, causing Liam to jump in surprise. "What if it's scary in there?" the little boy asked, his eyes wide. "Sometimes it's what's inside us that's scarier than what's outside," Jack answered, thinking of his own fears. "But we won't face it alone. We'll do this together." With a nod, they stepped inside the warmth, freezing for a moment as the reality of their situation enveloped them once more. People were already helping others. They had a bulletin board filled with offers of help. But was this truly the right way to rebuild their lives? As the rain continued to fall, Jack felt the weight of uncertainty trail behind him. Would they find the strength to heal and begin anew? Would Marissa and Liam become a part of his journey? In that moment, with the world outside roaring with wildness, Jack's heart raced, leaving him with one burning question looming in the air. What would they uncover about themselves in the storm of their new beginning? The warmth of the community center wrapped around them like a fuzzy blanket, stark against the chill that had settled in from the rain. The room buzzed with energy, a melting pot of voices reaching out to one another in their time of need. Jack watched as a group gathered in one corner, sorting through donations, clothes, food, essentials. It was chaos, but a beautiful kind of chaos, filled with people leaning into the discomfort together. Marissa's gaze drifted to the bulletin board. A handwritten note caught her eye. "We have a safe space. Looking for a place to stay?" It was a lifeline among the scattered pages filled with offers for shelter from others who faced the same storm. It was a reminder that they weren't just surviving. They were part of a tapestry woven with stories of hope. "Look at this," Marissa said softly, her fingers grazing the paper. "Lots of people willing to help. Maybe we could find a place to stay through this." Jack felt a flicker of determination burn in his chest. "Absolutely. And we'll get through this together," he affirmed, picturing a new normal for them, whatever that might look like. Beside them, Liam was exploring a small play area set up in the corner. The sight of the little boy's laughter as he built a tower with plastic blocks brought a smile to Jack's face. Just moments before, they had stood on the edge of despair. Yet now hope was quietly seeping in like the light filtering through the rain outside. "I'll be right back," Jack said, sensing the urgency to take action. "I'm going to find someone to talk to about getting us some help." Marissa nodded, her face reflecting a mixture of fear and relief. Jack disappeared into the sea of faces, his heart pounding not from anxiety this time, but from the rush of focus. There had to be a way to help Marissa and Liam. They couldn't do this alone, and he wouldn't let them. After scanning the room filled with activity, he found a woman in a bright red sweater, directing volunteers and coordinating resources. "Excuse me," he called out, making his way toward her. "I need some information. My friends and I were displaced. We're looking for a place to stay." The woman turned, her eyes brightening. "You're in the right place. We're gathering lists of families needing shelter and matching them with those who can help." "What's your situation?" Jack explained as clarity flowed through him. "Marissa, she lost her home tonight. It's just her and her son Liam." Each word pushed him closer to the edge of fatherly protector. He had no real idea of what he could offer, but he was determined to find a way to give them stability. She nodded, taking notes. "We'll find you a warm bed for the night. And we can work on something longer term too." As the woman spoke, Jack noticed Marissa watching from a distance, a spark of hope illuminating her features. That glimmer was a treasure. When he returned to her side, Jack felt as if he were carrying a piece of sunlight. "They're going to help us. We'll have a place to stay tonight," he said, eager to share the relief. "Really?" Marissa's eyes widened, and he saw the tension in her shoulders ease. "Yeah, and we'll figure out the next steps tomorrow. For tonight we have shelter," he reassured her. But as if the universe had its own agenda, the storm outside began to intensify again, hammering against the windows. The howling wind echoed through the room, causing people to shift nervously. Liam tugged at Jack's sleeve, a hint of fear in his eyes. "Is it going to be like last time?" he asked, his voice tremulous. "No, buddy," Jack said, kneeling down to meet the boy's gaze. "We're safe in here. You've got us and we'll make sure you're okay." But as he spoke, a chill flickered in the pit of his stomach. Only then a loud crash erupted, shaking the center as a nearby tree fell, adding to the chaos outside. Jack's heart raced, not just from the storm, but from the uncertainty of their future. What if this safety was just another illusion? Would they manage to rebuild when the storm passed, or would they continue to feel hollow from the loss? With a heavy sigh, he looked at Marissa, hoping the fire in his eyes would help light her way. "We're going to find our way through this, just hold on to that hope, okay?" But deep down Jack wondered, what if hope wasn't enough? What if the storm wasn't just outside? As he watched the light flicker under the strain of the darkness gathering, Jack realized that the real battle was only just beginning. What secrets would the night reveal about their strength and their bond? The storm raged on, but inside the community center, Jack felt a strange calm. The chatter and laughter of neighbors rallied around like a cocoon, a makeshift family forming amidst the chaos of their reality. People hugged, murmured words of reassurance, and shared their stories, each of them shaped by hardship but standing strong together. Jack looked at Marissa and Liam, their eyes wide with uncertainty but also with a glimmer of hope. It was all too raw, too new. Everything they had known had been reduced to ash, but here, surrounded by strangers, Perhaps they could find a foundation to rebuild. Liam, Jack called, crouching to the boy's level as the echoes of laughter danced around them. Why don't you help us find some supplies? We might need snacks for later. The boy's eyes came alive with excitement as he nodded, pulling at Marissa's hand to join him. I can help, he chirped, already racing toward the table stacked with donations. Jack watched, his heart swelling as he turned to Marissa. He has a bright light, isn't he? Marissa's smile was fragile but growing stronger. He really is. Thank you for all of this, Jack. I don't know how we would have made it tonight without your support. Her voice trembled, revealing the depth of her gratitude. It's easy to support when you see someone make a change, Jack said, hoping his words hovered in the air like a promise. And you fought through the fire tonight as a reminder that sometimes, we need others to help carry our burdens. Marissa's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and for a moment, they both understood that vulnerability was strength. You're right. I've been so overwhelmed by fear. But if I can just take one step at a time, maybe we can find our way, she whispered, as if sharing a secret. A volunteer approached, shaking Jack from the moment. We're coordinating shelter placements now, the woman said. We're looking for families to host, and we have beds available. Jack felt a surge of hope, but also trepidation. That is fantastic. Marissa, we could look into this, maybe find a place. He turned to her, searching for her reaction. A new start could be waiting. She nodded slowly, grasping the weight of the situation, and Jack admired her slow acceptance. Yes, I'm ready. It will take time, but let us begin. As the night continued, Jack held his breath as they gathered their belongings and signed up for a temporary home. The volunteers moved efficiently, keeping that fire of hope alive even as storm winds tried to snuff it out. An older man volunteered to host Marissa and Liam. We've got room at our place. It'll be cozy, but it's safe and warm, he assured her, his kindness radiating through the cold of uncertainty. Jack felt a warmth bloom inside him. The community was alive, bursting with life and resilience. They were all battered, but the spirit, the love shared, was thunderous. Outside, the rain began to let up, the storm clouds shifting. Jack stepped to the door, watching as the first rays of sunlight split through, casting rainbows in the puddles. Look, Liam. The sun is coming out, he exclaimed, calling the boy to his side. As the sun broke free from the clouds, Marissa stepped next to him, the sunlight reflecting on her face. It's beautiful, she said softly, letting the warmth wash over her. I think it's a sign, Jack said, his voice barely a whisper but laced with conviction. We're stepping into brighter days. Together. They shared a moment of silence, hope swelling in their hearts. Behind them, the community was coming alive again. Laughter punctuating the air as people emerged to help one another, bringing life back into the streets that had just hours earlier been under siege. Remember how you called this a waterfall? Jack asked Liam, who was now watching the colors shimmer in the light. Well, rainbows come after storms, right? Yeah, Liam exclaimed, his face lighting up. Does that mean we're gonna be okay? Jack knelt, meeting his gaze. Absolutely. Just like that rainbow, we'll emerge from this together, stronger than ever. As Marissa smiled through her tears, Jack knew this was their turning point. Maybe they had all faced something terrible that night, but by holding on to one another, they had ignited sparks of resilience. His resolve solidified, Jack pulled Marissa and Liam close, knowing they had gained a new family through shared trials. Just like that newly found rainbow shimmered against the remnants of rain, Jack felt their lives unfurling into something vibrant, hopeful, and filled with promise. Let us build this together, Jack said, his voice steady. As they stepped into the new dawn, a powerful feeling surged through him. Even amidst their burdens, they could thrive. And that was everything. Now is the time. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to support the algorithm and share in the love. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible ending. And hurry! Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. You need to support the channel, proving that only true fans understand the power of community and connection. Don't wait not even one more second.